Today, the FIFA World Cup is without a doubt the biggest sporting event on the planet. It's this massive spectacle of global unity and incredible skill. But its birth, back in 1930? It was a chaotic, beautiful mess of boycotts, backroom deals, and a seriously treacherous journey across the high seas. So let's dive into the absolutely improbable story of how the first World Cup even happened.
I mean, it seems impossible, right? How could the world's greatest tournament be on the verge of collapsing before a single ball was even kicked? Well, it turns out the first and biggest challenge wasn't winning the trophy, it was just getting enough teams to actually show up.
So, you might be asking, why was a whole new tournament even necessary? For decades, the Olympics was the biggest stage for football, but it had one massive, unbending rule: amateurs only. And as the sport got more and more professional, this meant that the world's best players were suddenly locked out of the world's biggest competition. Something had to change.
And things started moving incredibly fast. After Uruguay just completely dominated the 24 and 28 Olympics, FIFA finally voted to create its own professional tournament. And then boom, a bombshell drops. Football gets cut from the 1932 Olympics. All of a sudden, FIFA's new competition wasn't just some nice idea. It was absolutely essential for the sport's survival on the world stage. Now, all it needed was a host.
So while a bunch of European nations were squabbling over who should get the honor, this small South American country swooped in with an offer that was, well, pretty much impossible to refuse: Uruguay.
Their offer was just stunning. First off, 1930 was the 100th anniversary of their independence, so this thing was going to be a massive national party. They were also the undisputed kings of world football at the time. But here's the masterstroke, the real kicker. They offered to pay for every single team's travel and lodging. And on top of all that, they promised to build a brand new, colossal stadium just for the tournament.
And they were not kidding around. The Estadio Centenario was designed to hold 90,000 fans, a true temple of football. You gotta understand, this wasn't just a building, it was a bold statement. Uruguay wasn't just hosting a tournament, it was demanding the world's attention.
But this incredibly ambitious plan hit a massive wall, and that wall was named Europe. You see, despite the free ride, the continent's biggest football powers refused to go. The journey was a grueling, multi-week boat trip. Professional clubs just weren't willing to lose their best players for more than 2 months. No way.
Now, just think about that for a second. With only 2 months until kickoff, the first World Cup was shaping up to be an America's-only party. The entire project was about to collapse. FIFA's president, a guy named Jules Rimet, had to personally go around and plead with these nations just to save his dream from total and utter humiliation.
In the end, only 13 teams made the trip, which, as you can see, created a tournament heavily dominated by teams from the Americas. Getting even those 4 European nations on board required some truly extraordinary interventions.
You want to know how wild it got? Let's take Romania, for example. To get a team to actually go, King Carol II himself had to get involved. He personally selected the players, he got them time off from their day jobs at an oil company, and he essentially commanded them to go represent the nation. I mean, that's what it took to get a European team there.
Just try to imagine this scene. The brand new trophy, the one that would later be named for Jules Rimet, sailing for weeks on this ship called the SS Conte Verde. And on that very same ship were the players from France, Belgium, and Romania, all training on the deck, all dreaming of winning the very prize that was traveling with them down in the cargo hold. It's unbelievable.
All right, so once everyone finally arrived, the football could begin. And let me tell you, despite the chaotic buildup, history was made from the very first whistle.
After a pretty tough group stage, 4 teams battled their way to the semifinals. And the lineup was fascinating. You had the 2 South American giants, Argentina and Uruguay, joined by the surprisingly good USA and the lone European holdout, Yugoslavia.
And because this was the first ever, history was being made with basically every single game. The first goal ever? That was scored by France's Lucien Laurent. The first hat-trick? That went to Bert Patnud of the USA. Even the first red card and the first penalty goal happened here, setting precedents that would last for a century. But any hope for a diverse, intercontinental final was completely crushed in the semifinals. The South American powers just unleashed their dominance. Both Argentina and Uruguay won their matches by the exact same staggering scoreline, 6-1. The stage was now set for the ultimate grudge match.
This was it, the final everyone both wanted and feared. The hosts, Uruguay, against their bitter rivals from just across the river, Argentina. And remember, This was a rematch of the Olympic final from 2 years earlier. The tension in Montevideo was so thick you could cut it with a knife.
Just how intense was it? Well, the referee, a Belgian guy named John Langenis, only agreed to officiate the match on one condition, that a boat be waiting for him at the port, ready for a fast escape. He was genuinely afraid for his life, no matter who won.
And the absurdity did not end there. The teams couldn't even agree on the match ball. Both of them insisted on using their own. So, in this bizarre compromise, the referee decided they would play the first half with Argentina's ball and the second half with Uruguay's ball.
And incredibly, that change of balls seemed to change everything. At halftime, playing with the Argentinian ball, Argentina was leading 2-1. But in the second half, using their own ball, the Uruguayans staged this furious comeback, scoring 3 unanswered goals to win it all, 4-2.
And with that, Uruguay, the tiny nation that had staked its entire reputation on this one tournament, became the first ever FIFA World Cup champions. The very next day was declared a national holiday. Their massive gamble had paid off spectacularly.
But the rivalry definitely didn't end with the final whistle. Over in Buenos Aires, the loss sparked absolute outrage. An angry mob actually attacked the Uruguayan consulate, and the two nations severed diplomatic ties. This all happened over the result of a football game, which just shows you the raw passion that was on display.
So when you really look back on it all, the boycotts, the sea voyages, the referee's escape plan, the very real diplomatic fallout, you just have to wonder, how on earth did this messy, improbable, and utterly chaotic tournament ever survive to become the single biggest event in the world? And maybe that, right there, is its most incredible victory of all.